But let's begin in the Middle East, where Iran says the U.S. has, quote, crossed the point of no return after the two countries exchanged fire in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. carried out strikes on two Iranian ports. The U.S. military says 3 U.S. warships came under attack but were not hit. Both sides blame the other for attacking first. However, President Trump insists the ceasefire is still intact.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. Nancy, Iran doesn't seem to share President Trump's sentiment about the ceasefire. Where do things stand on negotiations?
Well, right now, the ceasefire, according to President Trump, remains intact. He, in some ways, downplayed what happened in the Strait last night. He called it a trifle. He called it a love tap. But then, on the other hand, he said that all the people in the swift boats that attacked 3 U.S. destroyers were killed. And he described the drones that were shot out of the sky as dead butterflies falling to their grave. So a lot of very colorful language to describe this skirmish. But it does seem that there is no appetite for restarting military operations full scale. He said that the ceasefire remains in place. And we know that the U.S. is waiting on an Iranian response to its latest proposal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said as much in Rome this morning when talking to reporters. The Iranians haven't tipped their hand about how they are going to respond, but there was an angry statement from the Iranian foreign minister this morning who said that every time we get close to a diplomatic solution, the president opts for a reckless military adventure, again referring to last night. So lots of tough talk, but no real clarity at this moment about whether any kind of agreement could be in sight. President Trump was really optimistic about it earlier in the week, but last night he sounded less optimistic. He said it could happen, it might not happen, we'll just have to see.
So this mixed message that is coming out of the White House, Nancy, I want to play something for our viewers, which is something the president said yesterday about a potential deal. Let's play that.
Could happen any day, could, and it might not happen, but it could happen any day. I believe they want the deal more than I do.
The president says that the Iranians want a deal more than we do, the United States, the president. What is the strategy behind that kind of message?
Well, what he has been arguing for some time is that a deal is inevitable, some kind of agreement to kickstart more serious negotiations, because this war has been so devastating for Iran economically that they have more incentive than the United States does to come to the table quickly and sign this memorandum of understanding. But Iran has held out this far, and clearly the pressure is mounting on President Trump as well. Gas prices are now up to $4.56 a gallon in the United States. He's got the airline industry warning that they may need a bailout and that ticket prices are sure to rise if there isn't some solution to the situation in the Strait soon, so that they know that jet fuel prices are coming down. They're double what they were before the war. And so there's lots of pressure on both sides, but the reporting says that what the White House is asking the Iranians to sign off to is a very serious set of limitations to its nuclear program. That's something that Iran has not been willing to sign before. We'll just have to see if they're more open to it this time around.
And Nancy, this comes as the president is expected to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping next week. Very high stakes. Of course, China is the largest purchaser of Iranian oil. What role could China play in hopefully ending this conflict with Iran?
Well, they could put a lot of pressure behind the scenes on Iran to sign off on a deal. As you say, they are a major trading partner for Iran. There have even been some indications throughout the course of this war that China was supplying Iran with other military assets that they might need to conduct the war. President Trump has kind of he's noted it, but kind of turned the other cheek. And so China is an important trading partner for both of these countries, and therefore could play a significant role. And that's definitely on the agenda for discussions between President Trump and Xi when they sit down in Beijing next week, although, of course, Trump would like to have some kind of agreement in hand before he heads to China.
All right, Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thank you so much, Nancy.
For more on the situation in Iran, we're joined by CBS News Middle East contributor Courtney Kealy. Courtney, despite this latest flare-up in the Strait of Hormuz, the president insists the ceasefire is still in effect and played down the clash. I want to play a bit of that.
Is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Yeah, it is. They trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle.
All right. So are there any hopes of a swift diplomatic solution, or is that sailed?
Big question. And I don't have that crystal ball for you, but what I can tell you is while people talk about the fragmentation of Iran, what they're really talking about is the fact that the military is dominant now. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has really taken over. They have this mosaic of leadership with different, this octopus style of leaders being able to make decisions in smaller towns and provinces with the central command in Tehran. And they're really the negotiators now, no longer the clerical establishment. Khamenei was killed on the first day of the war, and maybe he wouldn't have gone this far. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard members are. So while you have the foreign minister saying, like, all this tough talk, he also said, the Iranian public is 1,000 times behind us. That's just not true. We know, even though there's no internet access, that the Iranian people have been slaughtered after uprising and that they're not with this regime. But the regime dominates, and the regime is very clear. They have real restrictions about the Iranian nuclear deal, if there is one on the table, in any kind of deal. Would they talk about the highly enriched uranium? Would they bring it down, way down to nearly 4% as opposed to 60%, which gets you to 90%, which could get you to a nuclear warhead? These are really critical things that the ceasefire right now has to stand for them to make the agreement, but the Iranians are saying they want it in 30 days. What they want, and they want to claim victory, but so does the president of the U.S.
So if a deal is reached between the U.S. and Iran, what about Israel? I mean, they're very involved in this conflict as well. Will they follow suit?
Right. The big question, another question that we're going to try to answer here is Israel and the U.S. really launched a joint war. They launched attacks simultaneously as opposed to the 12-day war last June, where it was Israel first, and then the U.S. came in as kind of the closer, hitting the nuclear power plants all in one night of airstrikes. This time they were lockstep, but now we don't really hear about the Israelis. Are they still going after top leadership? Are they upholding the ceasefire? Are they really pulling back and not getting involved? Because they are in southern Lebanon. The Israeli soldiers are still in Gaza. There are Israeli soldiers inside Syria. And there's an upcoming election where this could really test the coalition of Prime Minister Netanyahu. And he might not win because there's a really strong opposition coming. So that's going to start playing a factor in what Israel does and how they engage militarily or how they collaborate with the U.S.
All right, Courtney Kealy for us, as always. Thank you.